So then we're going to have other instructors coming in and playing a part as we move into the semester. So these are the main instructors with the faculty members. Iske alawa, the teaching assistants, we have 4 of them, and they are all in the meeting here. We have Hamza Athar, who is our 2020 electrical engineering graduate. So he graduated just this past spring. We have Hassan, Sayyid Hassan Amin. He is also a 2020 graduate. So he is going to be our TA as well. So arguably the best TAs of their batches. Then we have Isha, who is an EE senior, who has been actively involved with content creation for this particular lab and the labs to follow. And we also have Naman Arshad, who is a senior lab engineer, and he's going to be helping us with the teaching duties as well. So before I talk about what the course is going to be about, let me just talk about what the course modalities are. The first thing is, so there were some questions about this as well. So the mode of instruction for this lab is going to be, we're going to have synchronous lab sessions. So we're going to be live. We're going to be conducting all of the sessions live on Fridays from 3 p.m. to 5:50 p.m., which is the regularly scheduled start by RO. Roughly speaking, the lecture or the introductory material for this lab is going to be about 50 minutes or less. So hopefully we're going to wrap this up in much less than 50 minutes this time around. And even though this is going to be synchronous, we encourage you to come live and interact with us, ask questions. However, if you're not able to make it because of reasons which are beyond your control, for example, or intermittent availability of the internet, so we will make the recordings available to you as well after we're done. Okay. And after we have the lab instructions for about 50 minutes, then we're going to move on to the lab tasks. The lab task, roughly speaking, they're going to take about 120 minutes. So we'll try to ensure that you be done with the lab tasks in that time period, so 2 hours, 50 minutes. And we're going to try to ensure that you do not have to work for more than approximately 3 hours a week on this particular course. Okay. Now, there was another question at the beginning. What do you need? Because this is the lab. So what you need for this lab is just simply a laptop or a PC, which has an internet connection, and you would of course need a microphone and a speaker, which you already need for your Zoom communications. But these are the speakers and the microphone. Actually, we're going to use them for the purpose of our lab as well. So we're going to do some experiments with your speakers on your laptops as well as your microphones. And maybe towards the end of the lab, we may also have you use your smartphones to get some some experimental lab experimental equipment to do some interesting stuff. The grading breakup, which many of you would maybe be concerned about, but what I want to emphasize here is, so we want to be concerned about what we learned and whether we have fun or not. But nevertheless, so the lab task, if you do the lab tasks, that's about 65% of the lab. If you do them, you're going to get 100% grade, right? So lab grading is mostly going to be binary in the sense that you complete the tasks successfully within the time duration that we stipulate. You're going to get 100% points for the lab tasks. We will have, however, some quizzes during the course of the semester or vivas, they will only be 15%. And then towards the end of the semester, we're going to have a project of worth 20%. One of the things I want to emphasize here is that I have no issues whatsoever. Actually, I would be very, very happy if each and every one of you gets an A+, right? So each and one of you gets an A+, that's perfectly fine. That's completely fine by us. So don't worry about the grades too much. Everyone can get an A. Okay, everyone get an A+, right? Now, as far as seeking help is concerned, we're gonna have details on this in the lab handout as well. You can, so I'll talk about this later as well, but roughly speaking, so I am not able to follow the chats per se. So if the TAs maybe can man that chat, because I have a screen, full screen hai, so I'm not able to see the chat window. Okay, TAs,
Yes,
can you do that, please?
If there's any question, it's better if you send it to everyone in the chat so we can respond as well.
I cannot hear what somebody said.
Oh, I just said that for everyone else, anyone who has any question in the chat, just send it to everyone so that all of us can respond. Don't
Okay,
send it
so yeah,
privately if there's any
so
question.
that was my next slide as well, by the way. So my next slide, actually, so let me just leave this first. So if you want to seek help outside of the lab hours, we're going to have about 10 hours of office hours a week spread across the TAs and the instructors. The schedule is almost up, even though I've had this to be announced in this slide. But the schedule is up, and I'm going to show you that schedule a little while later. And on top of that, we're going to use quite frequently the LMS chat rooms, and I'm going to show you a snapshot of that as well, how to use that, and the discussion boards. And of course, you're always welcome to reach out to us with your questions over email or over LMS chat, and we'll be very, very happy to get back to you as quickly as we can. So there's some netiquettes that you need to follow, and I'm sure this is something that each and every one of the class, the faculty, instructors would have told you. But nevertheless, I'm going to go over this again. So we would prefer that your display names also have your ID so that we can keep a track of you. So for example, if my number is 8124100081, we would prefer this ID. You have your ID first, and then your first name and your last name. Your microphones, as I've been able to figure out, everyone knows this already, microphone should be muted by default. And if you wish to speak, that's only when your microphone should be turned on. If you have questions, so you can use the Zoom's raise hand feature. And when your name is called out, you can then speak out your question. And you may also, as Hamza just said here, you may also type your question in the chat window, and we will answer those as well. So there are multiple ways where you can raise your question. Okay. Video recordings, as I said, the sessions will be recorded, and only the instructors have the recording rights. Only the instructors have recording rights. And you may turn off your video feed if you do not wish for it to be recorded. So that's a disclaimer we're putting here. That if you do not wish your video to appear on the recordings, it's okay if you want your video to be turned off. Okay. Now, before I move on, one of the TAs, or actually the TAs, have prepared a small survey for you, a poll for you, and I am going to ask Isha to maybe type this.
Yes, sir. I'm just sending the link to the.
आप link में इसके अंदर आ दें.
Yeah, I'm just sending it in the chat.
Okay, so you will see a link pop up in the chat window. You just click on that and complete the survey. Okay, it should not take you more than 5 minutes. Meanwhile, there's this one question here, logistical question. Will the Zoom link be the same throughout the semester? Yes, it will stay the same throughout the semester. So you can join on the same link each and every time. Okay? Yes, Abu Bakr, thank you very much. It is going to be nice to see your faces. Of course, we do not mandate it. That's not compulsory. It's nice to know that I'm speaking to people and not just photographs. Right? So all I can see right now are my TAs. उनको मैं बहुत अच्छे तरीके से जानता हूँ. I don't. Yeah. And Abu Bakr as well. I know Abu Bakr as well. So if the others, thank you, Adil. Good to see you. I know. I remember. So Isha, I don't see that link here yet. मैं इसलिए गपशप किए जा रहा हूँ. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir. It's there.
So the link is here. Please go to this link and fill it out. It will take a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, one of the things I want to share was the first class I took for this semester, which was a grad class, and I asked the students if they could turn their video on, and some of the students were very reluctant to do it. I don't know why, but apparently they said कि जी अभी मेरा background तो बहुत अच्छा नहीं है. So I will make sure that I sit in a better place the next time around. So that's fine as well. Yes, Kiran, you please fill this form out in the next few minutes. Again, we're going to take it from there. So Isha, are we getting responses?
We haven't really received any as of yet, but maybe we will be receiving them in a while.
It looks like people are really thinking hard about these questions.
Okay, we have started getting them.
Okay, you're starting getting them. Okay, meanwhile, किसी ने कर लिया है, तो Isha, that's a good idea. If somebody wants to introduce themselves, it would be good to hear other people's voices, except mine. So maybe
Well, I think we should perhaps.
Yourself as well. You want to say something?
Sir, are you saying that I should introduce myself? Or are you saying that any of the students should?
Any of the students can introduce themselves.
Yeah, any of the students should.
Okay, thank you, Jaslan. You can have you have the TAs to thank this for. The TAs, so all the सारे TAs का कमाल है. Right. So it said just let me know when we have. Okay, so we have enough responses. I think I can go ahead. Okay, very nice. So we have about responses coming in 32 responses.
Yeah, one of the students asked if we have to fill this right now. Yes, you have to fill it right now.
Yes. Okay, Jaslan, engineers can do anything. What do you mean by that? Am I saying it right, Jaslan? Right.
You're welcome to unmute your mic and express whatever you would like to say if that's comfortable with you.
So,
yes, it is.
Okay, good. So we would love it if there's a two-way communication. Yeah. So don't be shy. Okay. All right. So I'll put up the responses now. Okay. So here are the responses, right? So sufficiently motivated, there's 62.3%. This is a little surprising for me, by the way, because figuring that this is just your first semester, first week. So people are pumped up at the very beginning, right? So I would have expected highly motivated to have actually won here. But sufficiently motivated is good enough as well. We want to make sure that this sufficiently motivated goes up to highly motivated. And for those of you who are slightly motivated, I would love to hear from you in private on the reasons why you are slightly motivated and not sufficiently motivated or highly motivated. You're welcome to drop me a line and we can talk in private if there's some things that are bothering you at the very onset. Which one of the following do you associate with electrical engineering the most? As expected, and this is what I was expecting, majority of the people think that this is electrical energy or power generation and transmission. And I'm going to try to burst this myth in this semester as well, but throughout the 4 years, if you choose electrical engineering as your major, you find that this is not necessarily true. And people think is telecommunication, just 7.5% associate electrical engineering with telecommunications. And environment, agriculture, and sustainability is even smaller than that. So Abu Bakr that you see on your screen would be laughing out loud here because he is the one who deals with agriculture and environment and sustainability at LUMS, even though he's an electrical engineer. Okay, SSC has 6 academic departments. How many of them do you think have faculty with an undergraduate education in engineering? Just one, all 6, 43%. That's really, really surprising, Mr. Badu. So I would have thought a majority of the people would have chosen 3. And the correct answer is actually, the correct answer is 6, all 6. All 6 departments at SSC have engineers who had an undergraduate degree in engineering. And I have a few words to say about that, why that is important in the School of Science and Engineering. Have you written any programs or reports in your life? It's not many, so right, so this is good enough as well. Majority kahan pe aayi hai? 39.6 is not many, but I've written at least once with almost complete understanding. That's fine, that's what we need. So we're going to assume, for example, in this course that you don't have a programming background. And we're going to try to teach something called technical computing as we're going to talk about in a while. Okay? Achha, so this was interesting. This was Isha's call. The pessimist definition, the optimist definition, the glass is half full, or the engineer's definition, the glass is twice as big as it needs to be. That's not what really engineers do. Okay, so this is very interesting, very nice. Some insights that have come in for me, which I was not expecting, but nevertheless. So let me go back to my slides here. Yes, Abu Bakr, yes, Abu Bakr also does robotics. So electrical engineering is a lot more than what you would think it is about. Okay, right. So let me go back to the slides and continue. So forgive me if there are some teething problems here. This is actually the first time I'm using slides on Zoom. So forgive me if there are problems. All right. So this is where we were, right? So SSC has 6 departments. The answer, of course, is all 6. And the reason why I think that we put this up here is just to try to illustrate what the foundations for SSC are. I mean, why is it a School of Science? And I'm sure you would have heard about this throughout your week, throughout your orientation. And I believe Abu Bakr had to say quite a lot about why this is a School of Science and Engineering and not a School of Science or a School of Engineering. And on top of what Abu Bakr said, maybe he said this as well. I don't know. Sorry, I didn't attend that. But the point I want to make here is that each and every one of the departments at SSC has an engineer in there, and this just illustrates how intertwined science and engineering is. And moreover, it also tells us that how versatile engineering could be. That once you have an engineering background, you have an engineering education, that allows you to do a lot of other things as well. So that's a holistic training that engineers get, which allows them to do many other things, such as biology, for example. So biology, would you believe it, in SSC also has engineers who, by the way, happens to be my class fellow as well from GIT. So he's an engineer. The other poll was about which one of the following do you associate with engineering the most? And honestly, when I was in high school, I mean, for me, electrical engineering was this electrical energy, dams hote hain, power transmission hoti hai, electricity generation hai. You want to solve the energy crisis in Pakistan, do electrical engineering. But the point I want to make get across to you is that electrical engineering is a lot more than just electrical engineering. Yes, it's an important part of electrical engineering, and we have many faculty members in our department who are working on energy, working on solving the energy crisis in the developing world. But then there are many others who are working with all of these other aspects as well. So, oops. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so all of the above is actually associated with electrical engineering. And when I list all of these areas up, all of these areas are being pursued in our department in terms of research, in terms of education, in terms of teaching. So health, variables, and medical diagnostics. There's a significant role that engineering plays in there, as I'm going to show you in just a while as well. Environment, agriculture, and sustainability. There's a significant portion, a significant role that electrical engineering plays in issues related to the environment, agriculture, and sustainability. And throughout this lab, we're going to try to deal or try to illustrate some applications with how electrical engineering in particular and engineering in general is applicable to these domains which seemingly have nothing to do with engineering. Okay, and as a continuation of that point, one of the links I wanted to put up here was the National Academy of Engineering. So that's an academy in the US, who brought up, I think it was in 2014, brought up many experts around the world and try to identify what the grand engineering challenges are going to be in the 21st century. And would you believe it? This is the list of 14 challenges that they identified. Now, these challenges appear to be very soft, and this may come off as a surprise to some of you, in the sense that providing access to, for example, clean water is actually an engineering problem. Providing better medicines to people there's a role that engineering has to play there. Health informatics, improving healthcare, engineering has a role to play there, and so on and so forth. So I would encourage you, and these slides are going to be made available to you on LMS. I would encourage you to go through this website, which is engineeringchallenge.org, and it has the full report. It has videos that you can see. And in particular, I would want you to go through this YouTube video, which I try to identify how engineering has a role to play in improving the healthcare in the 21st century. And these links are going to be made available to you. You're welcome to browse them after this lab. And more importantly, I mean, these are the challenges that are actually driving what we're doing at SSC, particularly in the electrical engineering department, or for that matter, chemical engineering. I mean, a lot of this has to do with chemical engineering as well. And this is what drives our research. This drives what drives our curriculum. And some of this you're going to see a flavor of in this particular course, which is one credit hour course of engineering laboratory. Not all of it, but some of it, some flavors, some taste, if you will. Okay. Now, with this, I go on to the course overview, what this course is going to be about. So the course is going to come in from a perspective of providing engineering solutions. And when I say engineering solutions, I do not mean engineering as a noun, as you would think, but rather a verb, if you will. So you're provided with a problem, and we're going to try to give you a flavor of how engineering solutions are devised for those problems. And of course, since it's a one credit hour course, it's just your beginning. We're not really saying that by the end of this lab, you're going to be able to devise any engineering problem, the whole 9 yards. You will not be able to do that. That's not what we're promising. What we're promising, though, is just a small portion of it and some flavor of it, as we're going to talk about in just a few moments. So I have some examples for you. So what do I mean by engineering solutions? And all of these examples are relevant to the lab assignments that we're going to keep on doing, okay, throughout the semester. So the first example I have for you is remote healthcare. So let's imagine the scenario of this pandemic, which alhamdulillah is getting better in Pakistan, but at some other places it's not. And the problems that you face in this pandemic situation in general, in particular, but in general as well, is that there's a limited hospital capacity available, okay? And what you would want is, okay, instead of filling up the hospitals, you would want to reserve the hospital beds for people who have the most severe of symptoms. And those with the mild symptoms, we want them to stay at home. However, there is a chance and there is a danger that the people who are staying at home, their condition may worsen, right? And that's actually happened in Pakistan. People have preferred to stay at home, and I know people who have done that, and whose condition got worse, and they were not in the hospital. And if they had some care, better care, maybe things would have gone better. So what we want to do, or what we want to devise, is an engineering solution for remote health monitoring of those patients who are staying at home. So how do you engineer a technology-based solution? This is one potential solution. This is a technology solution. This is not the technology-based solution, okay? So this is one potential solution. And that one potential solution is the use of something called variables, right? So variables, hopefully, is something that you've all heard of. Many of you may have smartwatches. Many of you may have your cell phones. Cell phones ke under there's a lot of them have sensors which track your vital signs, which track your fitness, and so on and so forth. So that's roughly speaking the idea of variables. You have devices on your body which are continuously monitoring your activity, you're continuously monitoring your health trackers, and so on and so forth. So the idea is to make them smart, those variables smart. You have sensors here which are connected to some processor, to a smartphone, which is monitoring on a continuous basis, continuously monitoring your situation. And if there are some red flags, they're communicated remotely to a doctor or to some diagnostic, artificial intelligence-based diagnostic system, which can raise red flags if necessary and alert the authorities or alert you to access a hospital at some stage. Now, what I want to do is I want to dig a little bit deeper into what a typical wearable device is going to be. So that typical wearable device is going to have some sensor. For example, it will have a blood pressure sensor. It may have an ECG sensor. So some smartwatches have that ECG sensors as well. And it may have an SpO2 sensor, or the oxygen saturation sensor, right? And a combination of all those sensors, we have data coming in. That data is fed into a processor, which could be your smartphone, and the processor makes intelligent decisions on it, processes that data, and communicates to a remote to a health monitoring facility, who can then alert you, or who can be alerted to if anything goes wrong. Right. So this is what a typical smart wearable device is going to look like. Now, before I generalize this in the context of where our lab fits in here, let me just give you one other example, which is a smart waste collection. And by the way, this example here, this is derived from what we're doing in our department, and you're going to hear about this in this course as well at some point in time, maybe 4 or 5 weeks down the line. This is another example of where you have to engineer a solution. This is with regards to smart waste collection, and this is actually a problem that we were approached with from a sanitation company in KPK. And in general, the idea, the problem is you have a waste management company who have trucks which go to different places, and pick up their trash. But the problem with this manual approach or manual way of doing things is that it results in an inefficient utilization of resources. So for example, if there's a bin at some location which is empty, you don't really need the truck to go there, right? So that's one extreme. The other extreme is if the bin fills up before the collection is due, that causes environmental, that causes smell all over the place, that causes overflow and environmental degradation. So you would want the truck to reach there earlier than the scheduled time, right? Similarly, the problem that we were told from the sanitation company was कि हमें customer complaints आती हैं, right? And our staff tells us that yes, they've collected the rubbish from that place, and we get a customer complaint, and there's no way for us to verify whether the customer is right. And I know you marketing people can say customer is always right. That's not necessarily the case. So you don't know whether the customer is right or whether your staff is right. So you need some sort of a technology-based solution which can help you with these problems. And the technology-based solution, once again, uses something called a smart bin, if you will, right? And you have smart bins, which have, for example, sensors on board. So you can have a gas sensor inside your trash can. You can have an ultrasonic sensor inside your trash can, which is going to detect kitna bhar chuka hai, trash can. You can have a weight sensor here as well, which is just going to sense or maybe provide some redundancy. And then all of these sensors are connected to a processor. So I mean, they're links with the example that I showed you earlier. So it's connected to a processor, which processes that data and communicates to some remote monitoring facility, identifying there's some bin that needs to be serviced, or there's some bin that does not need to be serviced at this particular time, right? So this is the idea of a smart waste collection system. And what I want to do next is to journalize these two ideas together, right? And let's do a bit of an abstraction. What are smart systems? Smart systems in general will have some sensors which are going to providing with you data. So for example, this could be ECG, this could be your blood pressure, or this could be your sensor data from the trash can. Yaar, fill hua ya nahi hua. And that signal or some data is going to be sent to a processor, and that processor could really be your smartphone, or it could be your laptop, or it could be some embedded processor or some microcontroller. It's okay if you don't know what a microcontroller is. Some sort of a small form Intel Core i3 processor in this form. Okay, and you process that data and you try to derive a decision out of it, and you try to derive an action out of it. Karna kya hai? I mean, what does this mean? We want to extract the meaning out of what that data represents, right? Extracting that meaning out of that signal or that data is something we're going to refer to as signal processing or data processing. So in essence, these are just methods. These are methods that use signals or data as input to obtain appropriate decisions or appropriate actions. Okay, and this is what we're going to be doing mostly in EE100, trying to learn these techniques which will allow you to take in data and from that data extract meaningful information out of it, so as to create an impact, if you will. Okay. Now, what does this entail? What does these data processing techniques they entail? They entail some theory, right? So you have to have a scientific and mathematical understanding of physical phenomena. You have to have some algorithms which are techniques and methods that take as input this theory and tries to devise some ways of coming up with intelligent decisions, right, or intelligent actions. And then on top of it, you need computing tools. In other words, once you've devised an algorithm, once you've identified that this is a decision I want to make, so then you need to tell the computer somehow, or instruct the computer somehow in a language that the computers can understand. Okay, so in terms, if I were to summarize what this course is about, this is one slide that summarizes everything. Okay, so because we're online, we are not going to be dealing with sensors so much. Okay, because we're online, we're not going to be dealing with sensors so much, but this does not mean that we're not going to be dealing with sensors. Yes, we will find some ways to deal with sensors such as a microphone on your laptop or your smartphones, but our focus is mostly not going to be on sensors themselves. Okay, our focus is going to be what goes inside the computer, which takes in that data. Given that data, what do you have to do? You have to have theory, but for this course, we will only talk about theory only a little bit. So our main focus is not going to be on the theory. The theory is going to be on a layman's level, or just some basic building blocks that you'll need to build the algorithms. So this is going to be our focus. The algorithms is going to be our focus, and the computing tools are going to be our focus, right? And the computing tool of choice for us is, so let me, I'm almost finished. Okay, so computing tools of choice for us is MATLAB, okay? And this is what we're going to be learning throughout the semester. So this is one slide that I just want to quickly go over. When you're engineering solutions in the form of a verb, not a noun, what you need to rely on is science and technology. Of course, you need to rely on science and technology. You also need to be aware of social dimensions to it. So this engineering is not just about science, it's just not about engineering, but technology. Again, it has to have a social dimension aspect as well. You have to have teamwork. So there's soft elements to it. You have to have teamwork. You have to have effective communication amongst each other. And you need to make sure that the solutions that you devise are sustainable. Now, as far as this course is concerned, we're not going to be able to cover all of these dimensions. The dimensions that we're going to touch upon is the science and technology part, the teamwork part, and the effective communication part. And in light of this, these are the learning objectives. So I'm just going to list all of these three. You're going to find this in the course outline as well. So you have to demonstrate the knowledge of basic data handling and signal processing techniques and engineering problems. So that takes care of the science, that takes care of the technology. You then demonstrate skills to translate data handling and signal processing to a computer program. That's also related to science and technology. And then demonstrate effective writing skills. So we're going to touch upon this briefly, not as much as the objectives 1 and 2, but we will have some aspects dedicated to objective number 3 as well. So very broadly speaking, this is the schedule of what the lab is going to be. The schedule for the lab. Labs 1 to 2 are just going to cover basics in MATLAB. Labs 3 to 9 are going to deal with the data or signal processing techniques that I talked about, in particular, how they're implemented in MATLAB. And for each one of those labs, we're going to try to follow a problem-oriented approach or an application-oriented approach, in the sense that we're going to come down from the application domain, in labs 3 through 9. We're going to talk about health and then how these techniques, some techniques can be used on those health domain. And then the last two projects, last 2 labs are going to be dedicated to a project. So this wraps up what the course is going to be about. This is an overview of the course. Before I just talk about what the tasks for this labs are, I just want to open up the floor for any questions that you have other than what you have raised in the chat window. Or if anybody else, Worker, if you want to say something.
Yeah, I would actually. So I just wanted to make a point of clarification that this is a course about an introduction to engineering, right? But by no means this is an attempt to convey that whatever that Momin has just explained to you, this approach towards building smart systems, this is the only type of engineering which is out there. I mean, so for example, if a mechanical engineering was teaching this course, he would have been teaching this course in a very different way. If there was a chemical engineer out there, I mean, that perspective, once again, very important, would have been very different. So much so that even if there were a certain type of an electrical engineer who was teaching this course other than Momin or myself or others, it would have been different. The whole point is that we are going to take you through this journey, which is only possible in this virtual environment. That this is why we took this route. Because I mean, if I do something else, which would require me to have a field visit, to do something in the lab, that would not have been possible. And secondly, we want to go deep into a particular perspective, which is this electrical engineering, smart systems, data processing kind of a perspective. So just take it as, I mean, just keep these points in mind. We are by no means saying that this is the only perspective which is out there. But when you when we make you go through this, hopefully you will get a gist of what a particular type of engineers do, and then you can also extrapolate and kind of figure out, well, what a mechanical engineer does, or what a chemical engineer does, or what a nuclear engineer does. Okay. So over to you, Momin.
Okay. Thank you, Bakar. So thank you for that point. And apologies for not making that earlier. I had that in my mind. So skip that. So what we're going to do next? Any questions, by the way? So when who can't use so Maz, what do you mean by that? When you say students who can't use MATLAB, right? So if you knew how to do everything, I mean, there was no point in you coming here, right? Right. So the entire point of you joining a particular degree program is for somebody to teach you or guide you through how you learn, right? So as Bakar points out, you will be able to see how everyone can use MATLAB. Okay. All right. So any other questions? I know we're short of time, but since this is the first lab, I mean, I have just one more introduction about what this particular lab is going to be about. Okay. All right. So let me go over that, and then we will take questions again at the end of that as well. So,
sir, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Sir, as in your introduction which you gave, there's limited work which we'll be doing because of no signal processing and no theories involved, because this is an online fall semester. Don't you think we will be like compromising on some things which
Okay. Okay, so we have to work with what we have available to us. Okay. Having said that, there's a lot that you can do with just a computer which has a microphone and a laptop, as you will see. So we're going to make an all-out effort to ensure that things are not compromised.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So as you will see, you will be dealing with sensors. So you will be taking in data from sensors. Okay. Real sensors.
May I kuch keh sakun? So, once again, to reassure you, so as Momin mentioned that I do this water, agriculture, environment kind of a thing. So if I was, for example, teaching a course in an introduction to engineering, and I was doing something of an introduction to environmental engineering, I would prefer to take you to a drain, to a river or whatever. We'll do a field trip and I'll show you things. Of course, I can't do that. Now, if I try to do exactly that same thing online, then I'm compromising. Now, whatever you are learning in this particular offering, the way that we are doing is exactly what you will be doing in a physical setting as well. So this particular offering of doing this data processing, MATLAB, nothing is being compromised, except for, of course, we can't see each other one-on-one. But if we were to design a MATLAB-based data processing system, these smart data processing systems, you would do it exactly the same way, even if we were sitting face to face. Okay, so don't worry about this part. Whatever we are doing in this particular offering is not compromised in that sense.
And I mean, so another point here is really, because we're online, rest assured that we've put in the extra amount of effort to make sure that you get the most out of it. Okay, so you can guess that by the fact that there are 7 instructors involved here. Never in the history of LUMS have so many instructors put in that effort into designing one course. Okay, and there are 4 TAs. So we're going all out to help you as much as we possibly can.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
That's quite
right. So I just have a